Pardon me if I sound full of a cold, because I'm full of a cold. Today, I'd like to review my Pen F. First of all, the thing that very shallowly made me want the camera in the first place is that aesthetically, it's the most beautiful camera I think I've ever seen. You know, you've got proper dials, everything's nice and metal, and you also have the best of both worlds because you have a flippy out screen as well. So that's the good stuff. It looks very good, it's very tactile, the dials are very strong, you don't press anything by accident, it's very well built. Can't fault it. Another thing that I love about this camera is the dial at the very front, which gives you several filtery presets. The monochrome preset I absolutely love. I'll show some examples of that now. Oftentimes with that monochrome filter, I really enjoyed taking the photographs when I'm out and about, Wi-Fiing them straight over to my phone and just putting them straight up unedited because I really do like the way that the monochrome filter looks. The rest I found to be a little bit gimmicky. It was one of those features that drew me in when I wanted to buy the camera, but then once I actually got the camera I didn't use it all. The way that I do use the filters though is I shoot RAW and JPEG and leave it in monochrome, and when you do that the actual screen shows in monochrome so you can take some arty photos. There is also your shadows and your highlights, so if you press this dial here you can bump the shadows or the highlights. I'm going to reset what I just did because I completely messed it up. Again, in theory, it was something that drew me into the camera, but in practice I never really used. The noise of the electronic shutter on this camera is abhorrent. It gets picked up in the video all the time, and I really don't like it. Let me swap to that audio. Wonder if that can pick it up. I found the video capabilities of the Pen F absolutely useless. The built-in microphone picks in so much internal noise. Can you even believe that this is November?
It's mad, isn't it?
What? It's not very usable, and then there's no mic input, so you can't even get around it unless you use an external device to record from. I know you wouldn't generally buy this for a video setup, but you know, it's 2017 or 2016 when this came out. You know, you want to have some kind of functionality for video as well as stills. We're in the digital age. There were some interesting features in the video section for special effects which are quite gimmicky, but I found quite interesting. This ghosting thing, which is quite interesting if you leave the camera still and have a crowd of people walking past, you can make that cool ghosting effect. And you have this doubling up effect, like a double exposure. Not quite sure what you'd use that for. And you also have a noisy, like really retro-y, nasty, ugh. So the video capabilities of this I didn't really rate at all. For stills, it's a joy to use, particularly if you were into street photography. You can turn the actual shutter sound off. And despite the internal mechanism being quite loud, sort of externally, it doesn't make a lot of noise at all. Which brings me to my next criticism. I've owned this camera I got it in October, so, you know, more than half a year. And the menus on this camera make me want to throw it out of a window. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, if the camera's good enough, I'll learn the menus. The menus in this are so complex, it's really hard to use. Okay, so you think, oh yay, there's a couple of settings there to choose from. And then you get down to this bit, and you have all those options. But then inside each of those options, there's loads of options. It goes on and on and on for days, and it's so not intuitive, and you can't figure out where anything is, and it's awful. Compared to the Panasonic menu systems, which are a dream, this is awful. Things that you should be able to find very easily are just hidden away, and it's something that I've struggled with. You know, when I'm doing weddings or a portrait shoot, I'm rooting through the menus for things that should be there. In fact, that was my biggest criticism of Olympus. The menus were really, really off-putting for me, and I am the kind of person that absolutely blindly looks past these things when I'm buying a camera because there's more important things, right? But that's the interface you have to use every day, and it wasn't good. Using the camera with external lights or flash, you get this with it. The world's teeniest, tiniest flash gun. The world's most useless flash gun. Onboard flash on an average camera is better than that. Useless. And then if you want to use it with a real flash, it's kind of a joke. It's so top heavy. I find myself holding it by the flash gun rather than the camera because it just feels like it's going to snap. So while it does have a hot shoe, you can't use the hot shoe for a microphone because it doesn't have a mic input, and you can't use it for a big boy flash gun. You only have to use it for this terrible, terrible thing. The image stabilization is very, very good for stills. It does give you an extra stop or two of light. The image stabilization on video is awful. You get that horrible pulsing effect, and I've not managed to find a setup that doesn't make that happen yet. So for video it really is terrible. I feel like all I ever do on this channel is bash cameras, and I don't mean to, because there is so many good things in this camera for still photography. Like, in manual mode, you have a couple of options for long exposures that other cameras don't have. You have live bulb, so when you are taking a long exposure, you can see the... Let's not demonstrate that in a well-lit room, Emily. When you're taking a long exposure, you can see the image develop right on the screen, so you know exactly when to press stop. It works really good for traffic or stars, things like that. The next one, which is very interesting, which I like the most, is live composition mode. And it only adds in the light that changes. So you could compose a shot of a street and illuminate the street perfectly, and then that won't become overexposed as you leave the shutter open. It's really good. And also for lightning. This was very handy for lightning. You could leave the shutter open for 10-15 seconds. You'd know that the shore or the mountain or whatever would stay perfectly exposed and not change. And then as soon as the lightning would appear, it'd pick up. Really, really good feature. Not a feature you use very much, admittedly, but you know, it's there. So to conclude, because I've chunnered on way too much, for stills, the Pen F is great. If you want a walk around camera that's subtle and stylish and well built, it's brilliant. If you use this in a higher pressure environment where you need to get to things in the menu quickly or change settings quickly, it's a blooming nightmare. If you want to have a walk around camera that's good for video and stills, this isn't the camera for you. The audio is basically unusable, and the liquid effect of the image stabilization ruins the video. But if you just want a dedicated, retro-y looking stills camera that's nice and fun, and you can have a good selection of small lenses, then it is really good. I think that's everything. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you've had any experience with the Pen F, what are your thoughts and feelings?